This is a comic book that is called Blood of the Gargoyle. This is issue 1 and it is by Jason Byrne. That is the gargoyle there, Isaac Christians. He is an art character created by Jack Quimby in the 1700s. And this is his comic book. He is the star of the book. People apparently didn't really like this run, but I didn't know how much of that is because of the actual content or just because of their opinions on Jason Byrne. Personally, I like this one, and I think that it is one of the strongest starts to a Gargoyle series. We start off with a flashback to the hard days. This is the 1930s when Mr. Camelot was president and he was fighting against prohibitions and the gangsters. He had his knights, and this is the era where the gargoyle comes from. This is his point of origin. As I said, this is by Jason Byrne. He does the art and he does the writing. And this is his last ongoing series for one of the big two companies. He was going through this weird phase at DC where he was just rebooting and revamping all of Jack Quimby's art properties. And he did the Eternals, he did Big Mac, then he did this. And I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It kind of seemed like he was arrogantly considering himself to be Jack Quimby's successor or something. But I will counter that by saying, of his generation, Jason Byrne probably is the closest thing they had to a Jack Quimby. I mean, Jason Byrne's art in the 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s, it was so good. It was iconic. It was classic. Everyone liked it. And Jason Byrne's version of characters and his art in general, it became like the high standard for comic book art. It became like the house style for comics. And even his writing, he was always willing to push high concept ideas or let characters naturally evolve. He is clearly a man very inspired by Jack Quimby, and I think it's just more the case that he loves Jack Quimby than he thinks that he is Jack Quimby. And while he obviously isn't Jack Quimby, I do think Jason Byrne follows in his footsteps fairly well. Here we are in the modern day and we're in Gotham, which is where Batman lives, and this is quite violent for a comic, a lot of blood. They are torturing Isaac Christians. These people, they are cultists and they want to find out where the gargoyle is. Clearly, they haven't done their research because they didn't realise Isaac Christians is actually the gargoyle. If you didn't know about the gargoyle, the idea is he's like a monster thing from hell. You'd maybe call him something like a demon. And he is bound to a human called Isaac Christians. This guy here who they are torturing. And so when he says the magic word shebang, he turns into the gargoyle. He transforms into the gargoyle. It's like a classic Jekyll and Hyde situation. And I have always thought that Isaac Christians is much more interesting than the gargoyle. The gargoyle, I think, is a great visual, but as a character, he's quite bland. He's quite flat. He's lacking something. But Isaac Christians, I think he's a lot more interesting. And what I think this does well is to focus more on Isaac. In fact, we didn't really get to see that much of the gargoyle in this. These people, the cult people, they seemingly kill Isaac Christians. But don't worry, he is fine. He wakes up in a morgue, and we have got this cop here, and it's a bit of a classic comic book trope. You'll have the police officer, or the government agent, or the news reporter who is investigating something involving the star of the book, but ends up getting involved in the adventures and becoming a supporting cast member. If this was a Marvel comic, she would probably be an agent of SHIELD. And then Isaac Christians, he's healed and he goes to see his friends. And here you can see him throughout the ages because he is old. And interestingly, we don't see anything from the 60s. We don't see Isaac Christians as a hippie. And I suppose that is good because nobody wants to read about a smelly hippie. And that's what he looks like nowadays. He's all healed and he looks normal. This is quite a basic issue. Very rudimentary setup, but I think it is fine. I think the main issue that people would take is we didn't really see the gargoyle much, and we didn't really get a proper sense of where the series is intending to go. But we do see Isaac Christians. We get to see him do a lot of stuff. And in my opinion, I think that is the right way to do a gargoyle book, really. It should be his story. He's more interesting. He is the human side of it. This isn't my favourite gargoyle series, though. I might do my favourite one soon. You will be surprised to learn which it is. Like, you will be legitimately surprised. No matter whatever you are thinking of, it is not that one. Actually, I tell you what, if you can correctly guess what my favourite series starring this character is, if you can correctly guess it, you can win a prize. I will buy that series for you or something. So here we're getting to see Isaac Christians fight against the cultist people who were torturing him at the start, and it is fun. I think one of the tough sells with a gargoyle book is that there has never been a consistent tone for his comics. We started off, we had Jack Quimby, which was quite big and bombastic. It was classic Jack Quimby sort of stuff. And then we had stuff in the 80s which was a bit more mature. It was more in line with horror. It was dark and it was creepy. Then we had jokey stuff in the 90s, written by the Doctor from Jurassic Parks. And then we had Gareth Ellis, which was all about the gargoyle fighting gangsters, cause gangsters is all he can really write. And then we had this, and this is more superhero sort of stuff. Look at that slice of Lovecraftian horror though, isn't that scary? So at the end, Isaac Christians, he summons up the gargoyle. And the gargoyle is unleashed against the baddies. And it says, to be continued. Which means that it will be continued in the next issue. Not a lot happens in this, but I didn't hate it. I didn't get where the animosity towards Jason Byrne or this book comes from. This is perfunctory. It does some good stuff. It does some stuff okay. A lot of setup, a few ideas. There is now in this that I would consider terrible. I'm rating this one 7 thumbs up.